Now, one thing that's very commonly said in computer science is that code, or rather software engineering, is that code is much more often read than it is written. And we've already talked about how useful ChatGPT can be in the generation and slash writing of code, but it's just as important for you to be able to tell people what that code is doing. And that's the primary purpose of documentation. Because at the end of the day, we still have software engineers running around writing code for unique business use cases. And sometimes that's just something we got to leave to the humans, right? So rest assured, all the coding jobs are probably not going to go away because there's definitely things that we can do as humans that ChatGPT cannot, though we can use it as a tool to augment software engineering and coding and all things like that. But in any case, let's see what ChatGPT can do for us in terms of documentation. In previous lessons, we actually saw that it was able to give us some very well documented code, right? So it's in this sieve of Eratosthenes algorithm that it gave us, it literally told us like what every little piece of code was doing, right? So create a list of all numbers, explains what this line of code is, 0 and 1 are not prime. So here I think we have pretty sufficient documentation. This is like a pretty short function, so there's not really too much to talk about here. But what if we try to go and look at some more elite code problems, right? Like let's actually just go ahead and look at some other problems. Maybe we'll do some hard ones, right? So let's do a regular expression matching. This is something that people like to say is quite, these regular expressions can be quite challenging sometimes, and sometimes we even use computer systems to help us come up with a regular expression because sometimes they're a little tricky, especially for ones that are like detecting like emails and phone numbers and things like that. But yeah, in any case, let's actually go ahead and ask them to generate a solution to this leak code problem. Please generate a solution to this problem and please document the code. So hopefully now that we've added this suffix, requesting ChatGPT to document our code, we're basically now getting these nice comments in our function that are telling us exactly what's going on, right? So let's actually see if this matches the function signature, and it does. So we're gonna actually be able to test this on the leak code grader to see if it is actually correct or not. So yeah, it's telling us exactly what's going on in every line of code here. Theoretically, this algorithm may be quite complex, and saying exactly what each line of code is doing may be not too useful, right? Because saying what a singular line of code does in isolation may not be as interesting or important to you as a coder as opposed to knowing what each line contributes to the algorithm as a whole. But this is actually really awesome because after that, it always seems to suffix this code block with an explanation of the intuition behind the algorithm. So in this case, it's dynamic programming, which is a strategy that's commonly employed to help increase the runtime complexity of your algorithms. So yeah, this is a super long paragraph. I'm not going to go too much into detail about what exactly is going on here, but you can see that quite simply, it's able to generate documentation and explanations for the code that it's writing. Now, we've already kind of seen this application in algorithms, and we've just tested it on a more complex algorithm. Maybe just for good measure, we can actually bring this code in here and just verify that it works. So if we go ahead and paste that in and correct the function signature, because it is not correct right now, and fix that, we should run it. And sure enough, oh, there is actually a runtime error, but that is because it is not indented correctly. So that's actually on me. But if we run that again, well, it should probably be correct. And yeah, I'm not even going to bother to submit it because honestly, it's probably correct. And yeah, we can see that it's able to also explain why that's the case. Now, one thing that's really popular in computer science is this thing called GitHub, which is a place for you to kind of, in a sense, upload your code. It's built on top of Git, which is source control or version control software. But yeah, basically we can go in here and see commit history, or basically changes that have been made to this code base. Now, the code base that we're actually currently looking at is Visual Studio Code, which happens to be the application that we've been using to view our code and edit it and view our file system. This beautiful app here is actually open source or available on GitHub under the Microsoft organization. And we can actually go in here and do some digging into the entire code that this sort of runs, right, to create this app. Now, you can scroll down, see the README, see more details about it. But what we're really interested in is seeing how ChatGPT can document this. So this is a pretty popular repository, lots of contributors, lots of issues, people basically reporting bugs, pull requests, basically like contributions, basically requests, like as you can see here, they're like updating things, implementing linting, using variables. So basically people are trying to add, right? So that's the whole essence of open source, is that you've got lots of people working on one project and all contributing their efforts. Now, if we were to go in, let's look at scripts or something, right? So we've got this script right here. And we see that this is a batch script. And let's just say I don't know what a batch script is, right? So like, let's go ahead and ask, what is this code doing? Could you please document it? And if we go ahead and paste that in, let's see if it's able to tell us what's going on here. This is a Windows batch file script that is used to launch VS Code in development mode. Here's a summary of what it does. It sets the script to run in the local scope. It sets the title of the console window to VS Code dev. So it's literally, I'm pretty sure if now with this description, right, we can go through line by line and kind of dissect what each of them are doing, even though we've never seen this type of file before. But we now have a better idea of what it's doing.